There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Welcome to episode 162 of the Program Guys podcast. I am not Mason Prince. I'm Mark Hall, joined today by Patrick Hertzberger and Matt Gann. No Ryan Tyson either today, but we've got a not so jam-packed show that we promise to try and make as fun as possible. If you're here, you know you're going to love the content. Go ahead and hit like, go ahead and hit subscribe, share us with a friend, follow us on all our socials. That's going to be at Program Guys with a Z, just about everywhere you can find us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok. I don't know the last time we talked, but that thing goes crazy even when we don't talk. So definitely go follow us there. Pat, Matt, how are we feeling? How are we doing this Wednesday?
I'm great. Had a great Super Bowl weekend, lots of fun. And we'll get into it further, but I'm in a great mood.
Yeah,
Well,
awesome.
Well, how do
we will definitely
you
talk
do,
Super Bowl
partner?
in a bit. Hugh?
How do you do? I'm happy to hear that. I wish we had all five guys. It's been a while since we've had five guys on the pod. But
Episode 160, 2 pods ago.
okay, well, hey, feels like a century
Not
ago,
that
but
bad.
the years just
too long
flying
for me.
on by. Well, we're here. It's the off season. I know we got some good stuff. I'm feeling better. We got a long weekend ahead with obviously President's Day and it being Valentine's Day weekend. My travel plans got canceled, but you know what? Blessing in disguise. I get to stay home and enjoy being home and taking some much needed time off from work. So I'm looking forward to that.
Lovely. That is lovely. Pat, you have any President's Day plans?
Driving home. I've been in Colorado for over a month. And it'll be tricky because of the snow here and there. So we'll eventually get home, but who knows how long it'll take and where we will be stopped.
That's a fun adventure, though. That's a fun adventure. I've not had one of those.
I'm trying to be optimistic about it. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm just not happy about it.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Another item about which the OU insiders are a little optimistic, guys. Is Demarco Murray going to stay on staff with the Oklahoma Sooners?
Sure as hell hope not.
But it sure as hell seems like it right now, right?
It sure
there was
seems like it.
Reporting earlier in this week that Demarco Murray was interested in and discussing the Penn State running back coach job with officials there after Notre Dame took their running back coach, I think. So almost a mirror image of what happened last spring when we saw Demarco Murray use the Ohio State running back coach opening to get a huge paid bump and become one of the highest paid running back coaches in college football. Now, I didn't see any such reporting this time around after this Penn State flirtation has supposedly been put to bed. That said, I am not always as sure that these things are as done as they seem to be. And I'm not totally sure that it wouldn't have been a good thing to move on from Demarco after the years and years of service he's provided as the running back coach. I feel like we've talked about this before, but this is a great opportunity to talk about it again. Matt, what do you think about Demarco ultimately staying with the Sooners, and what kind of impact do you think that has on the room?
I think of a couple things. This is probably going to continue to be a common occurrence when you're the University of Oklahoma, a top-tier program, and you're going to have top-tier talent on your coordinating and staffing positions. So it's almost to be expected that year in, year out, you might have a little bit of turnover. I think OU probably intended to have a little bit more turnover, especially after all the turmoil that we have been through to maybe start new, but that has really yet to happen. And so hearing Demarco potentially leveraging again what he did just a year ago doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's probably one of the hottest names when it comes to being a running back coach, especially what he does on the recruiting trail, obviously who he was as a player. It'll be interesting to see if OU ends up increasing his salary. He's bound to make, I think I saw a little over $825,000. So he's already one of the highest paid coordinators on any staff in the country. So I wonder if that will get bumped up a little bit now from what he's done lately. It's hard for me because knowing how he's mishandled the talent in the RB room the last few years. Again, he's getting them in. He's just not utilizing them and burning red shirts and all these guys. And it's just been really hard to watch, knowing that the talent is there, but not being utilized to its full potential. And that's exactly what the coaching staff has to do. They have to recruit at a high level, but they also have to evolve and develop these players and make sure they're put in the best position to let OU win. And Demarco has just fallen short of that expectation. Again, knowing how much he's making, you just expect more from the talent that's in the room.
Yeah, kind of like what
Yeah,
you said, Gann. I feel like this will be a thing with DeMarco Murray every offseason. He's a big name. He's an ambitious guy. He wants more money. So this isn't a surprising thing for me. I would really be interested to know what happened if it was Penn State who that said no, or if it was DeMarco saying just he wants to stay at Oklahoma for some reason. Maybe he didn't want to go to Penn State, but he has not performed in the last couple of years as a position coach. Rather, besides the recruiting trail, like Matt said, so I would not mind DeMarco Murray leaving to another program. Obviously, I don't know who replaces him at that point. It's hard to replace a guy like DeMarco Murray. That's more of a risk than him actually leaving, probably. Um, but yeah, the other just like little thing is it would have sucked if Penn State got Jim Knowles and DeMarco Murray because most likely would have lost two bidding wars with Penn State in one offseason at that point.
that's a fun point. That's a really good point. One thing I want to point out is the class of 22 was good for DeMarco. Gavin Sawchuk, Javante Barnes. Injuries have zapped both of those guys of a lot of what they were, but we saw Javante start number of games this season. In the 2023 class, there is not a running back remaining. That class had Caleb Hicks and it had Dalen Smothers. Dalen Smothers was out the door before he even started putting on the OU jersey. 2024 is really what we're looking at, right? Taylor Tatum is the highest recruited running back, the highest rated running back that has come to Oklahoma since Joe Mixon did. And between that and Xavier Robinson, it really does seem like you have a clear 1-2 moving forward into the future. Why does it take so long to see that throughout the season? Why does it take so long? I'm just repeating dead points from the end of the year, but why does it take so long to see Xavier Robinson? How is Taylor Tatum not coached up on his fumbling issues a little bit better as he gets more opportunities? Those are things that I'm looking at, and I'm not sure that Taylor Tatum actually improved from his first appearance to his last appearance for Oklahoma this season. And Xavier Robinson, absolutely insane, legendary sort of game against Alabama, reminiscent of Samaje Perine against West Virginia his freshman year. But what does it say that that's the first time we're seeing this guy? And what does it say that throughout the rest of the season, we're throwing out other backs who are less likely to help us win games? This running back coach thing is not easy, and I don't envy having to make those decisions, but it does seem like since Eric Gray, we can't find the right guy in the room.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see Caleb Hicks at Oklahoma State. It will tell us a lot.
Absolutely.
It'll tell us a lot. And I mean, was it Tawee Walker?
Tawee Walker at
Wisconsin?
Yes, that's a great one to bring up too, because we just wouldn't give him a scholarship. That's the assessment that is made here.
Yeah.
So that we can keep Caleb Hicks on scholarship just to run him off for a year?
Right.
Or spend a year running him off?
And Tawee had a great season. Not a great season, but he had a good season. He had a good, solid season.
A better season than all our backs.
Right. Yep. So that's a miscalculation.
A miscalculation. The on-the-field coaching experience of DeMarco Murray. Matt, any parting thoughts as we continue into a future where it does seem like DeMarco Murray stays on staff, and it does seem for the time being that Joe John Finley is on staff, a tangential piece of this to me, because those are the two that we thought, hey, let's see how this goes.
They were definitely the most likely candidates to potentially turn over, especially Joe John. knowing how, I mean, we talk about the running back room at least having talent, but also the mismanagement of the tight end room the last few years. We haven't had a suitable, serviceable tight end, whether it's coming in from the transfer portal or guys that we've recruited. And then we have a guy like Devon Mitchell. Again, we don't know the whole rigmarole and story behind that, but you would think that the history of the tight ends at OU and maybe that fullback position that OU is known for, that would be a better position group. And it's just really fallen off. So thinking about the turnover not happening and keeping these guys around, especially heading into probably the most pivotal year for Oklahoma's program and BV and the staff, we're going to have to see some pretty quick turnaround. The talent's there. It's just, can they put it all together?
It was one thing to keep these guys when Brent Venables came in, and we can split hairs. We can talk about that all day long. It's another thing to be keeping them 3 years in when your best tight end was Braden Willis, a Lincoln Riley H-back holdover, and your best running back has been Eric Gray, a Lincoln Riley holdover transfer running back from Tennessee. Those are tough facts to deal with, I think. Patrick, any final thoughts?
No.
No. All right.
He just makes me upset. Yeah.
It sucks because you want, I mean, it's the Seth Luttrell thing, and I think it's even probably a little stronger because Demarco's a more recent Sooner for us, is you want these guys to perform better, but we can't hold them to a lower standard just because they wore the crimson and cream. You can't. It should be a higher standard.
Yeah.
Moving on. Something a little different this week, something a little out of order for most weeks, but this is the off season and we want to highlight our superstars as best we can. Matt Gann is going to circle the wagons for us, tell us all about the Oklahoma sporting world that is not Oklahoma football.
Yes,
Go ahead, Matt.
Good updates. I'm going to talk about OU men's and women's tennis. So that's where I'll start there, since I haven't given an update in quite a bit of time. So OU's men's tennis starting off the year 7-2. I know we got a lot of photos and social media around the guy that looks like an absolute tank out there playing tennis. Patrick, I know you're a tennis fan yourself. That guy looks like he belongs as a tight end on the field. We should maybe be recruiting him, but they're currently 7-2, even though they recently lost to San Diego 4-0. But they're going to actually start SEC play against Arkansas and Tennessee this weekend. So look out for OU's men's tennis heading into conference play. On the other side, women's tennis also starting off very strong, 7-1. They've had a couple good years, both of these programs, getting really good wins, just not trying to get over the hump in the postseason. But women's tennis 7-1. They recently beat number 6 UCLA and number 7 Michigan 4-2, 4-3. Ended up losing the final game of the weekend to number 2 Texas A&M. So I would say that's a pretty good weekend playing top 10 opponents back to back to back. They will actually also start SEC play against Texas, and then they will actually go to a rematch with Texas A&M. So good luck to the OU men's and women's tennis as they continue to compete. Heading over to the hard court of basketball, women's basketball 16-4 overall, finally getting to 500 in conference play after their close win, beating Auburn 73-71 in a close one. They will take on Missouri and Vandy this weekend. Skylar Vann led the way with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in the Auburn game, and the Oklahoma Lady Sooners only shot at below 30% from 3, but they gutted out a much-needed conference win for the Lady Sooners. Moving on to OU men's basketball, continuing to trend in the wrong direction, and their projection to get into the men's dance or tourney continues to decimate. They lost to number 4 Tennessee 70-52. They were down 45-25 at half. I believe this game was at home, and from what I saw on X, the crowd turnout for a top 5 matchup was not there, and obviously the Sooners played very poorly and have been playing poorly really since conference play. They are currently 3-7 in the SEC. Jeremiah Fears, the top freshman point guard in the country, has been really struggling against top opponents this week. He's still projected as a top 10 pick. I wish RT was here.
That's
He is
on to the
projected
Spurs. Yeah.
to the Spurs to team up with Wemby. So I think his draft stock is still there. Obviously, he's a true freshman playing against much better opponents with the team around him not being maybe as good. So they do have another ranked matchup in 21 Missouri before they take on LSU in Florida. And I believe based on the ESPN bracketology report, they have about a 20% chance to currently make the tournament. So they would have to make quite a big run towards the end of the year in SEC tournament to even get a glimpse of getting a shot. Those are really the four programs there with OU men's basketball and women's basketball. Mark, any thoughts on OU men's basketball team?
I need your thoughts. Is this Porter's last year? It seemed
I
going
would think,
into it like it
has
had to be better, right? Like it just had to be better. The Jeremiah Fears thing started out looking like the Trae Young thing, and it was awesome and it's exciting, but he's not able to get his own shot off the same way that Trae was. And the size of these SEC guards, guys who have been playing ball for several years at this point, is just a little too much for him. And you're a top 10 pick, you're not going to stick around. There is no NIL that gets you top 10 pick money. And so it's hard to see building of this roster when so much is on Jeremiah and Jeremiah may be gone soon. But you can't take the ball out of his hands either. It's terrible. It's tough.
Yeah, outside of Jalen Moore, the supporting cast is not just there. And again, had a really hot start to the year, winning the starter beginner tournament, and then just really falling off for conference play. But that's been the same story every single year. I mean, OU men's basketball has won the tournament the 4 years straight, and then they get to conference play, and they're a totally different team. So I do believe this is Porter's last year, unless they have some kind of remarkable run and able to get into the tourney. But I believe if he misses the big dance, I think they'll have to make a change. You just can't have these continued years of bad conference play. So it'll be interesting to see. Final two sports, men's gym improves to 8-1. They recently beat Stanford and Greenville. They will compete against Michigan and Simpson this weekend. And then number one, OU women's gym, currently 10-0. They recently beat Kentucky, and they're about to have a rematch with the national champions LSU in Baton Rouge this week. If you recall, during one of the openers in Oklahoma City, they took the crown competing against several teams, LSU included. This will just be a single matchup against the LSU Lady Tigers. Probably get a really good glimpse of where this Sooners program can go to. That is a Circle the Wagons update. Thanks for tuning in.
Consider those wagons circled. Patrick, any thoughts on any of the Oklahoma sporting world outside of football? Or are you just a I know football guy today? Because I get it.
No, I like Porter Moser. I've always liked him. I thought, especially he came in like really hot, energized, tried to change some things. He definitely got more crowds out to the stadium. I think he's been a good coach from like a coach guy perspective. Just the performances on the court aren't showing it, which really sucks for him. He doesn't have the NIL backing. He doesn't have the stadium backing. It's a complicated story with Porter, in my opinion. If like he did have the stadium, he did have the NIL, I think he would have been gone maybe 2 years ago already, more a year ago. But he doesn't have that. So that's why I think he could hang around. Because
so you think the talent that could have been brought in, you think there's a coaching issue here? Like maybe the NIL is better, maybe the stadium is better, and Porter still is just like, hey, great guy, but can't capitalize at this level.
No, I think he can capitalize. He just doesn't have the resources.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's why he hasn't been laid off, because like that is probably
there's an understanding.
Porter's having a meeting and says, I need this, this, and this. If you don't give me this, this, and this is what you're going to get. And if he's right about that every single time, it's tough to get rid of that guy.
Well, and we just had a mayoral election go down in Norman, and I'm not incredibly well read on it as a not Norman citizen, but my read just first glance is this guy is not pro let's build a huge basketball stadium and metroplex area in North Norman. I just don't see that from what we have in new Mayor Holman. Matt, right. You're the Norman resident. Any thoughts on that insofar as how it affects Oklahoma sports?
what needs to happen, because honestly, for the city of Norman, it would second as a venue for other sports, including gymnastics, as well as being able to hold events and concerts outside of sporting events. So it'd bring quite a bit to Norman, where a lot of people have been moving towards more in Oklahoma City. So it would only be a greater thing for the greater part of Norman to have that stadium. I've seen a lot more positive news about it. So hopefully it does eventually get through. I think a majority has it going at this point. I would have to get an update on it, but I think it would only be a great thing for the city of Norman, but also for the sporting teams that would take part in having a new venue. Some of the areas and arenas they use currently are pretty outdated. We're Oklahoma. Come on, man. We're a top tier blue blood program. That's not just football. OU men's and gymnastics, they deserve a better place than just McCaslin Fieldhouse. So
Couldn't say it better myself. Couldn't say it better myself. They're dealing with deficits, not as far as cash, but in cash. But with the resources they're working with, it's just not as easy to be the Oklahoma basketball coach, frankly, than it is to be the Oklahoma football coach. You don't have the same support. You don't have the same NIL, stadium renovations, all of that stuff. Couldn't have said it better, Matt, even though I did talk longer than you there, I think. Next up, guys, we are going to, this is as off season a segment as it can be. We are going to give you our 2025 unsung heroes, our breakouts for next season. These are going to be guys who were on the roster in 2024, unless you guys have transfers, and are going to show out in a different kind of way this season. Are going to be something we haven't seen from them just yet, in a way that isn't really being discussed. So someone who is going to break onto the scene, show us what they're about, and command a larger role in 2025 than in 2024. I sort of, you know what, it doesn't matter. Patrick, I want to start with you.
yeah,
Who
Patrick,
do you have as your 24 to 25 unsung hero?
Yeah,
I think everything is there for this to happen. The X factor is it's this person. And this is who I want it to be. I want it to be JK7. I want him to show up as the second best linebacker on the roster and kill it next year.
He's playing offense.
To my next point, I think that is absolutely the dumbest move. And it's going to be similar to like what we did with the cornerback,
Jacoby Johnson.
Jacoby Johnson.
So that's where you're at with
they're like, that's not going to happen. If Kobe McKenzie gets hurt, you need that depth. I'm sorry, like, yeah, sure, like JK7 doesn't always play the position the best, but I think you need him in that linebacker room. I do. And I think he's got so much potential. And it's almost a failure on Brent Venables. I know it's not Brent on this one. It's JK7. He's like kind of a little silly and like just doesn't get football. And it's too complex of a position for him.
Oh my God.
He's great on X, though.
Seemingly,
cut.
like seemingly that's the case here. But man, if something just clicks at any point for this kid, he could be the unsung hero of this defense.
I love it. And what I was going to get into is that I sort of have two, but one of them is Jaren Kanak. And it's actually Jaren Kanak on the offensive side of the ball. I think that he is so much better going forward than going backwards. And we've always been fine with Jaren Kanak as far as attacking the football. When he's a pass rusher, I think I've been the loudest voice on this. All he knows to do is attack the ball. He moves forward at a very good pace. He can't drop back. He can't drop back at all. That's just not in the repertoire. But go look at what he was pulling in high school all those years ago. And I know I hate that I just did that too. He knows how to move forward. And if he can learn how to catch the ball, if he can learn how to run these routes the way that Ben Arbuckle needs him to, I think that is the kind of athletic specimen you're really going to be excited to see on the offensive side of the ball.
Can you compare him to someone that I would know on the offensive side of the ball? Because I can't, and I think that's an issue too.
He's not
depends
as
on
big.
what he plays.
He's not as strong. He is more explosive than Braden Willis.
Yeah, I would think he's going to be like a halfback hybrid.
He's going to be an H-back. He's
Yeah,
gonna be an H-back. They're gonna move him around, be in the backfield, be up on the line, sort of.
Who's our H-back before Braden Willis?
We've had several. I mean, Trey Lamard's been one. Lee Morris has been one. The offense has kind of shifted around the guys a little bit because Mark Andrews is not a H-back. He's a tight end, right?
Yeah.
You don't like it?
No, what about a guy in the NFL? Like anybody.
I mean, how many H-backs do you see in the NFL?
Exactly.
It's all due to a really good fullbacks who can move now. It's Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
In any event, that doesn't matter. I also have JK7, JK12 now. Patrick, I love it. One of us is going to be right. One of us is going to be right.
Well, I think we're both going to be wrong about him being an unsung hero.
But... Yeah. I would have to agree with that statement.
We'll see. Matt, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I'll take it a couple steps further. I'm going to do one offensive guy, one defensive guy, and then I'm going to do a transfer if you guys want or have other people. But I'm going to start with the defensive side of the ball, which obviously is going to be loaded with talent with a lot of the roster coming back and having a lot of veterans on really all three levels. Maybe the linebacker room might be a little young with Stutzman out. But the guy that I'm really looking forward to is going to be Daniel Okoye. I think there's been a lot of talk and hype about this kid, and OU just really hasn't had a solid pass rush in the last few years of just being able to get after the quarterback. Obviously, we saw that from R. Mason Thomas at times, but it wasn't consistent enough, and I think this type of freak athlete can just take another step. He's already got the defensive line. Let this guy go one-on-one on the edge and just use his freak athleticism to get to the quarterback. So I kind of want the R. Mason Thomas, Daniel Okoye show. I think that can be a bad combo for a lot of SEC offensive lines and quarterbacks. So he's going to be the guy on my defensive side. Mark, you have a point there?
Just real fast, are you over PJ? Is this a sign that you're sort of over what PJ could bring? Because he was getting those snaps last season.
Yeah, I think because they have such depth that I think Daniel Okoye is going to get his time and get his snaps. I think he's just going to be proven the better athlete that I think we wanted PJ to be. I think that's what Daniel Okoye can be, and probably better. So
PJ just hasn't put all the pieces together.
Yeah, he just hasn't been there, which doesn't mean he can't be. But I think the freak athleticism is going to take Daniel Okoye to another level. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's going to be my unsung hero for the defensive side of things. The offensive side is a guy who just got hurt all last year. That's going to be Jaden Gibson. I think Deion Burks is obviously going to be the number one guy. But John Mateer knows how to spread the ball around. That's what he did at Washington State. And he's going to find the guys who get open. Jaden Gibson is a huge target for Mateer to look for. But I think he's going to be that second guy that Deion Burks needs, along with the plethora of talent obviously coming in and hopefully building up from the freshman class and obviously the transfers coming in. But I think Jaden Gibson can step up and be that number two, but possibly number one. We just hope he's healthy throughout the year. But I think on the offensive side, I think that's who's going to be the unsung hero. I think the final guy for me on the transfer side of thing, who I think is just going to make an immediate impact and really fill in for Billy Bowman, is going to be Kendall Daniels, the transfer from Oklahoma State. I think he's just going to have an immediate impact with where he's at, being a ball hawk. I think he's just really going to slide into that role and solidify the safety room. So really excited about the Kendall Daniels guy, what he's been able to do, being probably the best Oklahoma State defender on the team, creating turnovers. I think he's just going to fit in just nicely to this OU defense. So those are the three guys I think are going to have pretty big impacts.
I love it. I also am very, very high on what Kendall Daniels brings. I think that he's going to be able to do a lot of different things that other dudes at his size aren't able to do, and he's going to be able to move in a lot of ways that also a lot of guys his size aren't able to do. Like he just brings a lot to the table as a physical specimen and a guy with experience that we're not getting out of the portal too much. We're just not. I'm going to go with my guy. Patrick, any thoughts on Kendall Daniel or on offensive guy, Matt? I'm sorry.
Jaden Gibson.
Yeah, those were two very, very good ones.
Great, right?
Yeah, those are two very good ones.
I'm high on Jaden Gibson. I'm very hopeful for him. Last year was almost like an accidental redshirt year for him. I imagine they're treating it that way for eligibility purposes. My guy, in light of that, is another wide receiver. And he is, of the freshman receivers last year, probably the least played one, probably the one that got the least run out of them all. I'm going with the 6'6", 223-pound Ivan Carrion. I think that you can't teach size, and Ivan has it in spades. He only had 10 catches, 89 yards last season, but I could see him be an absolute cog in the machine for the Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer offense in 2025. It's the Jaden Gibson thing, except that he's larger than Jaden, and yeah, he moves less well. He moves worse than Jaden does, but my God, his arms are longer than Patrick's, and he is the tallest man on the field almost every time he steps on the field. I think that you find a way to exploit a defense that is going to put linebackers on him, that is going to put corners on him, and in either case, he's going to be able to move around them in certain ways that just other dudes can't. You're 6'1", 200 pounds. You can't move quite the same way that 6'6", 223 does. So I'm very excited to see the role that Ivan Carrion can carve for himself going into next season. We saw flashes last year. I know we did. Little 15-yard out routes. No one can touch the ball but him because his arms are so long. I think that you're going to see that all over the field with improved quarterback play and a coherent offense. So Ivan Carrion's my guy.
I hope I'm wrong. This is a hot take and get into it later. I don't think the freshman wide receivers will really come in handy. I just wasn't impressed.
Freshman.
Just wasn't impressed with.
They weren't
like,
supposed to be playing.
I
That
don't
becomes my
care.
thing.
Yeah, I
That
get it.
becomes my thing.
I'll have one more, and I don't know if this is like an unsung hero because it's a little obvious, but he has a lot to go through to become truly the unsung hero. But I think Xavier Robinson could easily do it if given the opportunity, because that guy will get you 3 to 5 yards each time. That's all you need, and he'll give you a breakout 20-yard run once a game too. It's all you need from your running back, and that's all he wants to give.
Circling back to DeMarco Murray, do we think that Xavier Robinson starts the year as RB1? Or do we think that that goes to, I think it goes to an elder
He's
statesman.
RB4.
I think it's going to be Javonte Barnes.
Xavier Robinson's RB4. That's why I'm saying he's the unsung heroes, because unfortunately he's going to RB4.
We're going to figure out in game 5.
Fire DeMarco if X is not the starter on the report. I'm just saying, if he doesn't get the first carry of the season, I will protest.
I don't know what we've seen to make you think he will. Even the bowl game, man. Even the bowl, like the only stuff I had was rushing props, and Xavier Robinson can't get those touches. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I remembered the guy I was thinking of after Braden Willis, or before Braden Willis. Brennan Hall, Jeremiah Hall.
Jeremiah Hall, another great one.
Could
Dimitri Flowers, another great one.
Yeah.
Right. So Jaron is 16 pounds lighter than Jeremiah Hall right now, but if you give him an off season to put on weight.
I also think, funny enough, all of those guys, and we named a lot of guys there, but all of those guys sort of did have a little bit better agility than Jaron does, even if Jaron from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 is a lot faster. So I think you're going to see his usage be a little bit different than what we saw from a Jeremiah Hall or Braden Willis even.
Yeah.
Matt Gann.
Cool.
Any final thoughts?
No, I'm excited about the roster. I think the roster, the talent's there, especially on the offensive side. The defense is only going to be much improved, I believe. So giving my hopes up again, but got to ride that train. Ride or die, baby.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah.
It's all about the program, and we are here for it. That's all we got on the Oklahoma Sooners football front, but stick around because now we are going to move to the last NFL game of the 2024-25 season, the Super Bowl. We saw Oklahoma Sooner Jalen Hurts take home the MVP, winning the Super Bowl with fellow Oklahoma Sooner Lane Johnson over fellow Oklahoma Sooner Creed Humphrey and James Winchester on the Kansas City Chiefs. Still a lot of Sooner stuff here. What did you guys think? I was shocked. Not shocked. By 10 minutes into the game, I knew what it was going to be. But that it was so just
dominating,
one-sided, one so dominant. What do you guys think about that? The Eagles are crazy, man. Patrick, go ahead.
I wasn't surprised. I don't feel the Chiefs met the eye test throughout the season. They had multiple games that were decided on a one play, one mistake, one weird thing happening. They had multiple games where the reffing calls went their way. And I think that had to catch up with them. Like there was, of course, the X factor of Patrick Mahomes and all those things, but Andy Reid. But like they didn't meet the eye test, and the Eagles met the eye test and had the weapons and were a really good team. Looking back at it, I think most people be like, yeah, no, duh. Like, look at have you seen the clips of Travis Kelce just running around with this chicken, like a chicken with his head cut off? He hasn't had a good season.
Do they draft a tight end? You almost have to. He looks so bad.
I think you have to. Anyways, I wasn't surprised. And I'm glad I tweeted that the day before. It made me feel validated.
Oh, you've been on it. You've been in the group text, like the whole thing. You said something to us like, I don't think the Eagles have trouble. Something like that. You've been firm on this. Matt, what did you think?
Was surprised about the outcome. I was the only person that picked the Eagles, but I did pick them in a close game, just knowing that, hey, Mahomes have been here. He's a multiple-time Super Bowl winner and MVP. Everyone felt the Mahomes magic was going to happen again, and just wasn't quite there. And I even said, and the one mistake that I made, or I said, was that the Chiefs had a better defense. They had a better defense stopping Saquon Barkley, probably the better player on the Eagles offense, but they couldn't stop Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles defense absolutely put Patrick Mahomes in a spin cycle. I want you guys to listen to this stat because my mind was boggled after I heard this. So, according to ESPN research, the Eagles blitzed Patrick Mahomes on 0 of his 42 dropbacks. Mahomes is the 6th quarterback in Super Bowl history to not be blitzed at any single time. All 6 QBs lost. That is the formula for winning the Super Bowl. If you have a front four that can get after Patrick Mahomes the way that Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham was able to come back, good for him because they thought he was lost for the year, and he's been an all-time Eagles legend. I mean, you just saw Patrick Mahomes play at snap after snap, these guys getting after it. So they had the winning formula that their front four could cause mayhem, cause Patrick Mahomes to get off of his spot. And you even saw it in his feet. He just was not comfortable staying within the pocket, thinking his protection could hold. And you saw that all game, and all the Eagles had to do was just score points. And Jalen Hurts just did enough to let his defense take over. That was the story of the game. So definitely surprised by the score, but Eagles proved that they were a better team.
I actually think you might be underselling Jalen's performance. 17 of 22, only misses 5 passes all game, and one of those being a pick, and 10 yards a pop. The throws were on point when they needed to be. The pass to Devontae Smith when they're already up 27-0. The pass to Jahan Dotson on the first drive of the game. Several passes to A.J. Brown down the field where it's just a dot. That's not the same Jalen Hurts that we had here in Norman. That is an improved version of that guy. And I think you see it every single year out of Jalen. He just keeps on getting better. Everyone, myself included, thought, hey, he's going to get that contract. And I know it hasn't come in yet, but he's not going to live up to it. He already has. He's brought the ring to Philly. He already did all of the things. And to Matt's point, all of that only works if the defense is able to basically shut down Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's the only thing that happened there. That was the worst game we've seen from a quarterback of Mahomes' stature at this level probably ever. I mean, you take away the 2 garbage times to Xavier Worthy, and I don't know that we've seen one, since Jared Goff against the Patriots, right? It just was not working. Joe Thuney, the left guard being the starter at left tackle, probably should have raised more flags for someone like me, and it just didn't because Patrick and Andy are that great. But shouts to the Eagles, man. That roster's insane. That's as good as it gets in football.
Agreed. Where do you guys put this, like in the best teams of all time, or like even are they out in the top 10? Like, do you entertain that conversation at all.
No, I don't.
It feels weird because they're so solid on all sides of the ball, but they don't have like that incredibly great besides Saquon Barkley. But like they don't have like two of those guys, you know? It's not.
And it hurt him that Saquon had the game he had in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
It helps a lot
Yes.
more if we're coming away and it's like, oh, dude, and Saquon had 140 yards rushing.
Right.
And his was the highest rushing total prop we've ever seen in Super Bowl history. Obviously, he falls well short of that, but Jalen Hurts, man, picks up the slack the entire way. I think as deserved a Super Bowl MVP as we've seen in several years. I don't have any final thoughts on that except shout out to, once again, the most Oklahoma Sooners having the most players in the Super Bowl for a third year running. Any final thoughts, guys?
Really happy for Jalen, and the Chiefs did a great job maintaining Saquon Barkley.
Great job. They did do that.
Yeah, that's all they did.
Nope. All right, it is just about time to get out of here. But as always, we're going to close out with our PGP Program Guys MVPs. Matt, give me your first one. Let's go. I know you got 4.
No, I don't. I'm not Ryan Tyson, but I will tell you my MVP. So something that coincides with the Super Bowl weekend is the Waste Management there in Arizona, the golf tournament, which is the People's Open. So I'll go with Emiliano Grillo, who hit a slam dunk ace on hole 16. That has to be every golfer's dream. Because if you guys don't know anything about the 16th hole, it's encompassed by stands, and obviously they open up the gates at 3 in the morning, and all these kids and college students get to the 16th hole to celebrate. And if you guys haven't seen the video, please go watch it. It is absolutely chaotic and nuts. Beer flying everything, things getting flown onto the stadium. If you've never been to the Waste Management, which I was fortunate enough to do a few years back, it is an incredible golf tournament to go to, and that moment for him will live on forever. It is such an incredible environment. But hitting a slam dunk in front of everybody, hole in one, that's every golfer's dream. I can only imagine.
Beautiful. Patrick, MVP?
Yeah, I hate that I'm giving this team the MVP, but I'm gonna give it to Ohio State because last year they bring in Chip Kelly, an extremely good coordinator. They win the national championship. They run a deficit of $11-ish million, but they won the national championship. So who really cares? This year, the best defensive coordinator in college football leaves them, and who they bring in, Matt Patricia, a very, very good defensive coordinator, in my opinion. And we're sitting here like, oh, who could Oklahoma hire now that Jim Knowles is gone? They go get an NFL head coach, who's very good at his position. And that's what Blue Bloods do. They bring in the best, they run a deficit, they win national championships. I'm okay if we do that too.
I'm interested to see how that hire works out because I think I land on the other side of it. I'm not sure Matt Patricia is a very enticing recruiter for these guys to get in the door, and I don't think he sees it as any more than a 1-year little run.
Both were true with Chip Kelly.
And if you bring a ring home, none of it matters. Absolutely none of it matters. I don't have a good one. I'm going to go with MVP. Demarco Murray, man. You made the right decision. I'm not sure that you made the right decision for all of us, but staying home, staying where you're a legend, the job security is a little bit different. It doesn't matter that you haven't developed anyone here. We're good, apparently. Penn State would have expected you to actually put in some work and get some guys' production on the field. So my MVP, Demarco Murray, keep cashing those checks. That's going to be all for us this time, baby. Episode 162 has come to a close. This is the Program Guys podcast. As always, please
like and subscribe. Mark's microphone just got out. Go ahead.
Keep it in. Lost my microphone. All right, we're keeping it in. As always, go like and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, on all of your podcast feeds at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any of your podcast feeds. Go like us on social media. That's going to be at Program Guys with a Z. anywhere that you think we are, we probably are. And I think that's all for episode 162. Pat, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
Bang.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.